And the first Tim Burton one in 2010 was sort of the first film to really piggyback off the success of Avatar in 2000, the 3D success of Avatar in 2009. In 2010, when we scooped up 1 billion at the box office, over 1 billion, so really big success. However, this is sort of a film that no one really asked for in essence, but it's still a film that we have now got, and it's a film that we have to sort of live with now. The first one we both watched this week.
Yeah.
For me, it started well enough. I really like the soundtrack. Of course, Danny Elfman, the man who composed pretty much every 90s film. That's not even an exaggeration. But to be honest, it became a really, really, really naff film that I wish I could erase from my mind. More so, just the dancing scene with Johnny Depp.
I'd forgotten all about that till you messaged me saying, like, why is Johnny Depp dancing?
Some things in life aren't too good or too bad to die. They just should never have existed to even touch this land. Yeah, so that was horrendous. And this time they've decided to come and adapt a story which is even stranger and more lucid to adapt. Alice Through the Looking Glass.
This one shouldn't have been made into a kids' film.
What could go wrong? What could possibly go wrong trying to adapt one of the most difficult children's stories ever written? So this time they're back with Alice Through the Looking Glass. It's not Tim Burton this time, it's James Bobin, who did, he was originally a TV director. He did things like Flight of the Conchords and Bo Selector, and he also did the Muppets film, am I correct? Yeah, and this time he's back with Alice Through the Looking Glass. And in this film, Mia Wasikowska plays Alice Kingsley, of course, Alice, and she has been, at the end of the first film, she decided that she was going to take her own life into her own hands, and at the start of this film, she is the leading captain of a merchant ship which has been beset by pirates, and they are on their way back from China with a lot of cargo. She uses her life motto of never believe that something is impossible to escape the cargo ships, and she gets back into the land. However, her previous suitor is Hamish, who has been a bit of a he's a bit of a bad guy, isn't he? A bit of a snooty guy. But he basically says, he basically blackmails her into signing away either the ship or her mother's house, and in frustration she runs away into his sort of drawing room, and she finds a mirror that Absalom, who played by Alan Rickman, God rest his soul, and this film actually does have a sort of for our friend Alan at the end, which is lovely. And Absalom leads her through this looking glass, which leads her back into Wonderland and back into the fray, where she's been gone for quite a while. And the Mad Hatter, played by Johnny Depp, is sort of in a stupor because he found a hat which he made as a kid, which he realizes his father kept as a token of his love to him, and he realizes his family might still be alive, not slain by the Jabberwocky as he first thought. So he's in a sort of stupor, and it's up to her to be sent back by the White Queen to find this sort of MacGuffin, this sort of thing that is kept in sort of possession by Father Time, who is actually a man, played by Sacha Baron Cohen, in his castle, and go back in time and stop this all happening and save the Hatter's family, or find where the Hatter's family are. Now, it's sort of a very, very complex film compared to the first one. It
sounds complex, just from what you've said there.
Yeah,
I'm fascinated by deeds and things getting signed off on. Those first 10 minutes had me captivated. I was like, please don't sign the document, Alice. Sign that one instead. Oh, I'm really rooting for this one.
But, for all that it's worth, the first one, it had a lot of ideas. Now, it really did have a lot of ideas, but I feel like a lot of those ideas were from the classic elements of the Carol story, the classic sort of things that we've come to be accustomed from to Alice in Wonderland. I don't feel like the tone that it went for at times worked at all, and that's probably what led to a big factor in my disliking it. However, in this one, it is one of those rare films that it feels like this is what like a bang average review was made for. Like in the fact that it's beautifully sort of in the way that it sort of wants to be a film that does not stick by any kind of rule book whatsoever, because it's imaginative in a way that you can never ever put down for the fact that it wants to be imaginative in that way, and this sort of links in with a film that we'll talk about later on, the Warcraft film. But I feel like in this one it is just so incredibly imaginative, and there's so much going on, but it has the fact that it dials down sort of this more like fantastic elements that didn't work in the first one, and sort of tears it all back and brings back into the sort of more family-oriented personal troubles that some of the characters have. It delves into the relationship between the White Queen and the Red Queen, played by Anne Hathaway and Helena Bonham Carter, and it delves into the past of the Hatter as well, so it gives them more depth at the same time, as well as having this world that is endlessly creative and is always trying to show you new things. And in the visual style is fantastic in some of the scenes. I think the design of Time's castle, played by Sacha Baron Cohen, is terrifically done. I feel like that is a marvel of design, especially. It's a really good mix of reality and CGI, and I feel like in the first one, Mia Wasikowska, she was naff.
Yeah,
she was really naff. She was
young.
But
young.
I feel like in this one she has sort of matured in the fact that she now knows what the character of Alice she wants to play is, and she does that with a sense of maturity that is good for me to see, because it adapts within the characters of themselves to be more accessible in that fact now, and I feel like you can't really blame it for that at all. I feel like, considering how bad the first one was in my eyes, this is a massive improvement. I feel like from the offset, in that sequence with the pirates, the soundtrack's great, the performances throughout the film are on a mark, all improved. I mean, the stuff that I hated about, Anne Hathaway's, the way she went on with the floaty hands in the first one really got on my nerves. But you just go with it this time because you know this is a world that is completely fantastical in all of its elements. You just sort of have to be swept away by it, and when it is this imaginative and it is clearly trying to win you over as much as it is, you cannot blame it for that. And I feel like Sacha Baron Cohen adds a lot this time after the disaster of Grimsby. He's really overcome that to put in a performance where he's sufficiently aloof, as you would expect, like the personification of time to be, but also harsh, and he sort of speaks in past tense, future tense, present tense at times, which is really sort of a good combo to do. And I feel like it does have a better story to tell than the first one did, and I feel like because of that, that's why I liked it so much. And don't get me wrong, like, it's not amazing. Like, I mean, the characterization is still quite weak, and I feel like Wasikowska isn't amazing, but she is improved from the first one. But I feel like just because there is so much great stuff to watch on the, I mean, obviously the fact that they have dialed back the story to be more personal, and you've got these incredible worlds to look at, and you've got that Danny Elfman soundtrack in the background just pulling you along. It's a proper adventure, and I feel like it's one that kids will receive a lot better than the first one did. I don't know if it'll make as much money as the first one did. I mean, it's already been beaten by Warcraft in the US box office, 2 #1 spots, but I feel like on its own credit, this is definitely one of those solid 3.5-star films that you can say, yeah, you can watch this with kids and you can enjoy it for what it has going for it, because it's got a lot it wants to say and it's got a lot that it wants to show. So, fair props.
It was like being dipped head first into a big bag of sherbet, except irritating. Like a little bit of sherbet's fine. Once you've had too much, you just feel sick. And I couldn't wait for this to be over. It's just Johnny Depp still doing his gurney thing with his ooh that he did in Willy Wonka, and that was fine because it was 10 years ago and it was kind of more acceptable then. He's a one-trick pony now. It made me annoyed. It bored me. Something this supposedly quite colourful and CGI, plastered everywhere. They should be doing better with it, and I don't think.
I feel like it was a lot better than the first one in terms of CGI. I feel like it was a vast improvement. The first one,
it probably was.
I think it's probably the colour palette. That's a sort of a big variable in why I feel like this is improvement, because it's brighter.
I don't envy James Bobin for having to take over from Tim Burton. For having to sort of undo the things that he did, and it's because it's still a Tim Burton film, isn't it? It's still produced by Tim Burton. It's still his style, and there's not much of James Bobin in here, because I don't really know his style anyway. But no, we disagree on this one. I think there's much better things.
But I think just considering that it's absurd enough that they think like sort of a darker turn for Alice in Wonderland. I know some of the stories were a bit more adult, and obviously Alice with Looking Glass is a story regarded as very, very hard to adapt. I feel like this is just one of those films that you don't get enough of, like this level of playfulness. And obviously, like it's like I say, it's not an amazing film, but for what it's worth, I did enjoy watching it, and I wasn't bored. And I was in the first one when it got really, really bad. So it's an improvement. I'm not clamouring for the third one.
I think it sounds like the director wants to do one, but the money's not there for it. So.
Yeah, I can oversee the bravura performances and some of the weak plot elements for the fact that they do dial it back a lot, and the personification of time is really well done, and I love that design of his castle. So
I still don't think it's worth your time. I'm not going to recommend it, but
I'll probably recommend it if you want to take something for your whole family. If you want to,
yeah. Okay, well there you go. That's Alice. That's Alice Through the Looking Glass. Agree, it's great. That's what the show's about.
Fine. It's all about. Joe, what did you think?
I didn't see it.
Have you ever seen any Alice in Wonderland films?
Nope.
No?
I have no
interest. You know the
interest.
story?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Cutting edge journalism here on the spot.
But no, I have no interest in Alice in Wonderland, the story.
No,
the only thing that's ever come close to it's possibly one of the Jack River films. That's it. Other than that, I have no idea what the hell it's about.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't care.
That's that. Shall we move on to...